Russell Wilson, right? Wasn't there a story the other day about him kind of scrubbing some Seattle Seahawks stuff from his social media?
Yeah, he changed the banner photo. He took out the Go Hawks and all that stuff. But, we haven't really heard much from Russell like we did last year, where he was not asking for a trade, but here are the 4 teams I'll go to, telling DP that he doesn't want to get hit as much. He wants his line to play better. Haven't heard much from Russ this offseason.
I will say he was at the Stanford Washington game the other night, pumping up his sister in that team.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Saw that.
I don't think he's going anywhere.
I don't think he's going anywhere either. I don't think Pete Carroll's going anywhere either. I think this is a situation they're in for much speculation around what should happen and what shouldn't happen. All right, Jimmy Garoppolo. News broke yesterday that he had off-season shoulder surgery, something that happened in the NFC wildcard round versus the Dallas Cowboys, and also a thumb injury that happened along the span too. He played. There's a big reason why you saw John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan and everybody on that team really kind of have his back when the season was over. It was like they knew what he played through, because Trey Lance wasn't ready to go. Still wasn't ready to go in the biggest moments of the season. In the end, they knew what Jimmy Garoppolo played through to get to where they were getting. The 2 teams I'm hearing the most or the loudest for Jimmy Garoppolo, Pittsburgh Steelers, who are in need of a quarterback. Matt Canada, the new offensive coordinator, runs an RPO system very similar to what Kyle Shanahan runs. So he has the wherewithal to make Jimmy fit in and be very knowledgeable with what he does in that type of system. They run the ball well. They have Najee Harris. They have to address the offensive line, of course, not only to protect Jimmy, but also run the football, because it's pointless if you're not able to protect and do the things they should have done in the offseason last year. And the other team is the Washington Commodores, right? Commanders. Sorry, the Commanders. Why is that so hard for me to say? Every time I've said it wrong.
Just say Washington.
In everything I've done.
Yeah.
Washington football team. They are in a position where Ron Rivera talked about how, do you hear anybody complaining about what the Los Angeles Rams gave up for Matthew Stafford last offseason?
They can't hear you if they are, because they have that Super Bowl ring in their ear.
Right? So they're willing to do what they have to do. They have a ton of money under the cap to go make some big splash. I don't know if Jimmy Garoppolo's that big splash. Mitch Trubisky's name has been brought and tossed about a ton at the Combine. And that's without mentioning the 2022 quarterback prospects. And that tells you where they're at in terms of what people think and see from this class. If Mitchell Trubisky's name is at the very top of everything around the free agents market. He's going to have a chance probably to be a starter somewhere. Brian Dable spoke so highly of him, being their general manager, about what he did in Buffalo. And the biggest takeaway I had is something that Bean said in his meeting the other day about how Mitch did not mention his time in Chicago at all. Like, didn't point the finger once, didn't blame anybody else. I mean, that is huge. There's an accountability to that. Like, I own what I own. It didn't work out. They didn't want me any longer, and now I have to make the best of it. I work hard. I'm capable of being a starting quarterback in this league, and he's going to get a shot this offseason, whether that ends up being in some of those places we talked about. Yeah, Washington is $30 million under the cap, so they have a chance to make a splash in free agency. We already talked about Deshaun Watson. Now let's talk about 2 quarterbacks that at the time right now are considered projected starters for their respective teams next year. Carson Wentz, the Indianapolis Colts, no matter what, he's getting paid $15 million. It's good to be Carson Wentz right now. Mm-hmm. Very good to be Carson Wentz right now. Unfortunately, it doesn't sound like the team's backing him as much. They gain about $13 million in leverage if they cut him before the March 18th signing period. And where do they go from there? Now, they've been able to, over the last 5 years, to play, mix and match at the quarterback position. 5 quarterbacks in the last 5 years. Where do they go here? What does Frank Reich, what does Chris Ballard, what do they do at the quarterback position? Because they're extremely talented, and they can't hold on to this nucleus much longer because their contracts that are coming up, guys are going to get paid, and they're not going to be able to pay everybody. There's also a curse being really good at drafting players. because
true that.
those contracts are going to come up and the cap is what it is, and everybody expects to be paid. You're not being able to pay everybody. Just look at the New Orleans Saints a year ago.
Never thought of it like that.
Having to look in the face of Trey Hendrickson as he walked out the door as a free agent and go to Cincinnati and become the player he was, because they just didn't have the cap. They didn't have the ability, right? They drafted well. They just couldn't afford him, and they let him walk out the door and have a career year in Cincinnati. So, and the other quarterback that I'm very intrigued with, and Mike McDaniel, I'm sure will speak to this today, what the mandate is around Tua Tagovailoa, right? What that looks like, because for 2 years the quarterback has had to deal with so much, not only injuries, play time, but then ownership looking to maybe displace him or replace him in any chance they can. So what's that like? Is Mike McDaniel being tasked to resurrect the young quarterback's career? Or is he looking at a veteran quarterback to bring in to compete? And then ultimately, if Tua can't get it done, be the guy. That's why I always kind of thought Jimmy Garoppolo was an interesting figurehead in this in terms of trade, because of his familiarity with Mike McDaniel, right? And if Tua can't be the guy, where do you go from there? It should be interesting. So those are the quarterbacks that I see: Kyler Murray, Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, Jimmy Garoppolo, Mitchell Trubisky, Deshaun Watson, Carson Wentz, Tua Tagovailoa. Those are the main characters in this play, I think, heading into the offseason. Who's going to be your guy? What's it going to look like? Is it going to be your part in making the move, making it go a different direction? Is Aaron Rodgers going to force a trade? Russell Wilson? Is Kyler Murray ultimately going to, he's under no control here. He could sit out. I mean, which I don't understand what that would do for this team. Also, I don't know if, watching Colt McCoy come in those 2 out of those 3 starts that he wasn't in, be extremely successful, right?
Yeah.
Dominating the Seahawks, the divisional game. I mean, things like that aren't good for leverage for him either. So interesting to see where that goes. And Jimmy Garoppolo, of course, has to be traded. Mitchell Trubisky is the free agent. Marcus Mariota's name is floating around there too, right? What does that look like? I don't know if he fits necessarily in with Josh McDaniels' mindset with Derek Carr and what they want to do. I don't quite know.
Hey, you watched all the way to the end. Thanks for that. Watch more right here.